Hello everyone, Skits here, and welcome to third episode of Fallout 4 Mods Weekly. First mod I have for you today is called Bullet Time Slow Time by Registrator 2000. This mod adds ability to use bullet time to your Fallout 4. After you install this mod, there will be two items added to your inventory called Bullet Time and Bullet Time Configuration. In the configuration menu you can basically set up your bullet time. You can choose how much action points it takes to use it, how slow will the actual bullet time be, and also if you want any visual effects along with it. When it comes to the second item, that is the bullet time itself, and it is best to assign it to hotkey, so that way you can use it as a special ability. Now I don't think I need to give much explanation to the bullet time itself. I mean, it basically just slows time, and if you ever played any FPS game, I'm pretty sure you encountered it. Personally, I think that bullet time was one of the few things that Fallout 4 gameplay needed. I know that jet is sort of equivalent of bullet time in Fallout 4, but it is still a drug that has been with us basically from the start of Fallout franchise, and I think that separate ability like this mod offers was definitely needed. Like I mentioned in the beginning, in the configuration menu you can choose a few attributes for your bullet time. I think that the most important one is how slow the actual bullet time will be. You can make it as slow as VATS is, which I think is a bit overpowered because then you are basically Quicksilver in Fallout 4. But when it comes to the other speeds, I think they are pretty balanced. 30% slowdown is like jet, while the 50 and 70% slowdown will still give you advantage in combat. This bullet time also comes with its own visual and sound effect, which is of course a nice addition. Overall a very good and for me personally an essential mod that I would definitely recommend. Next up we've got M14 Standalone Rifle by FF7 Cloud Strife and Moniterman. This mod adds a new weapon into the game and you can obtain it with console commands. Now FF7 Cloud Strife has been a very popular moderator and so far he never disappointed, and same also applies to M14. Now as you can see, it comes with custom textures and model. Texture job is awesome as always. Just like on R91, I especially like the combination of wooden and metal parts of the weapon, and I also like different types of textures and other accessories that you can add to this weapon thanks to the mods. When it comes to model, it was very accurate as well. When I compared it to the real life weapon, both models were identical, and I have to say that Moniterman did a very good job. Other than custom textures and models, it also includes custom sounds. It is integrated into the spawn list. There are different ammo types and of course a huge amount of mods. When it comes to mods, like I mentioned, there are different types of textures that you can choose for your weapon and also tons of different accessories that can completely change the visual of the weapon. If you mod it enough, you can even make it look like a modern version of M14, and there are just tons of combinations that you can try out. When it comes to combat, it was also very powerful, and as you can see, when faced against enemies it had no problems. So yeah, yet another great weapon by FF7 Cloud Strife, and I'm looking forward to his next work. Coming up next, we've got Witcher, Geralt's Prologue Gears by renn. As some of you may not know, I am a huge Witcher fan, and when I saw this mod I immediately had to include it in this episode. This mod adds two new armors and a weapon into the game. You can obtain them by crafting them at Chemistry Workbench under its own category. Both armors can be used on males and also on females, and from my personal experience I can say that they work on CBBE as well. If you ever played Witcher 3, then I'm pretty sure you know these armors since they appeared on beginning of the game, and now you can also use them in Fallout 4. They have custom textures and models, and as you can see, textures look very good. I especially like all the small patterns on the Viper armor and also a huge amount of accessories that can be found on both of them, like the knife on the first outfit or the hook on the Viper armor. Personally, I think that both of these armor look basically the same like they did in Witcher 3. When it comes to crossbow, it of course also comes with custom textures and model. Since there are no crossbows in Fallout 4, it is used like a pistol, and in combat it proved to be fatal to the enemies. So if you really like Witcher series just like I do, then I think you should go ahead and check out this mod. Moving on, we've got Valentine Reborn by 83 Willow. This mod is an overhaul of Nick Valentine, a companion from Fallout 4, and also a retexture of Generation 1 Synth. Now personally, I don't really use any of the overhauls of companions that are available on Nexus because I think they look pretty good in vanilla game as well, but this one has caught my attention since it doesn't overhaul Nick completely, but instead it is, you could say, a huge upgrade of his visual. Now most of the changes were of course done to his face. It now has new HD textures that make Nick, at least for me, look a lot better than he did in vanilla game, and they're also more detailed. You can see some small cracks and scars on his face, and also one of the biggest improvements are his eyes. They are now extremely detailed, and I also think they glow a lot more, and I think that blue color fits Nick a bit more than the yellow one. Now of course the eyes are also available in 2 other editions. There is also a red and yellow version if you prefer any of those 2 colors. Now second part of this mod is the Generation 1 Synth skeleton retexture that makes Generation 1 Synths look more like metal robots rather than failed experiments. Textures look very good, and I also think this version fits Generation 1 Synths a lot more. Now this metal skeleton retexture also applies to Nick's robotic arm. Overall a very good looking Nick Valentine and Generation 1 Synths retexture, and I think you should go ahead and download it. Now let's take a look at Place Everywhere by TheLich. This mod, just like its name says, allows you to place items everywhere in the workshop menu. Now in vanilla game, whenever you tried to, for example, put the bed or chairs or any other items into the air, you weren't allowed to do that, and you could only build items on the ground. Also, if any of your items clipped, you weren't allowed to build either, and this mod fixes both of those things. Now you are able to build stuff anywhere you want, so if you want to build stairs made out of lights, then feel free to, or if you want to have some air defense in form of floating turrets, then you can do that as well. Another feature this mod also includes that most of the items that were only able to be scrapped can now be moved as well, which is the feature that I like most, because I especially liked some of the items that I found in Sanctuary, but when I found out I couldn't move them and only scrap them, I was a bit disappointed, but thanks to this mod it changed. Now only limitation this mod has is that items that are only able to be built in dirt or water, like some of the crops or some of the water purification systems, can still only be built at those places. So if you wanted to build some crazy things and due to these limitations you weren't able to, then this mod is definitely for you. Next up, we've got Jedi and Sith Force Powers by Ketzulo. As you may have noticed, there were tons of Star Wars related mods on Nexus, especially in December when the newest episode of Star Wars came out, and so far these mods only included armors and weapons, but thanks to this mod we now also have Jedi and Sith powers available. Now we can obtain them by crafting them at Chemistry Station under their separate category. Since GEC is not out yet, these powers can be only used through grenades. Best way to use them is to, just like with bullet time, put these grenades on any of the hotkeys and then you can use them as much as you want. Now currently there are 5 powers available. First one is the Force Push, that basically pushes your enemies. It is great to use on enemies that are on ledges or on any kind of staircases, because the fall damage will usually kill them, but sometimes even the force of this push can be enough to kill them. Now this is personally my favorite power, because it kinda reminded me of Fuzrodach power from Skyrim, and I had a lot of fun with that one, so definitely my favorite addition. Second one is Force Disarm, which when used makes enemies drop their weapons. In most of the cases enemies will pick their weapons up again, but in meantime you can shoot them without taking any damage. Next 2 powers are very similar. First one is Force Lightning Bolt. It is a lightning bolt that explodes on contact and it creates some crazy explosions, and it is also very overpowered, but it is probably my second most favorite power, simply because the visual effect was very good and I had a lot of fun with it. Next one is Force Lightning, which like I said is similar to the lightning bolt, but instead Force Lightning is sort of singular quick beam-like attack that is also very overpowered, and it could destroy super mutants in one hit. And the final one is the Extreme Force, which is a force wave that creates large explosions on impact, and it can also damage you unless you use a lot of stimpaks or you have big defense. It is kinda similar to Force Push, but it is not oriented only on single enemy, and instead it can damage a few of them. And that's basically all there is to it to this mod. So if you're a fan of Star Wars like me, or you just want to test out these crazy powers, then you should go ahead and check out this mod. Moving on, we've got Better Wait Menu and Wait Anywhere by Registrator 2000. This is a simple yet very useful mod that adds a function to the game that allows you to wait a lot more than the vanilla game allows you. So now when you use A or D keys, which are the default keys for moving left or right, you can increase or decrease wait duration by 12 hours at once. Also, other than the maximum of I think 24 hours, you are now allowed to wait for 99 hours. So if you have any sort of quest where you need to wait for a few days, or you just want enemies to respawn, then this mod is perfect for that. Another function of this mod is that hours don't go down by 1, but instead they all go down on the same time, which is best explained on the screen. As you can see, when I wanted to wait for quite a lot of hours, the clock instantly jumped to 0 and the waiting time was reduced. Now of course you still have to wait until environment changes and until the actual time passes fastest in-game, but it is still a lot faster than the vanilla one. Another function of this mod is that it has a file that allows you to wait at any time you want. Now you can do that in vanilla game as well, but you have to use a specific console command that is a bit long for my taste. And so when you install this mod by putting it into your root directory of Fallout 4, where your launch application is, you can just type bad wait into the console and the wait menu pops out. Now thanks to this you are finally able to wait anywhere you want and you don't have to sit down on chairs or lay on beds, which was kind of annoying for me. Overall, a very useful mod that I would definitely recommend. And final mod I have for you today is called G67 Battle Rifle by Junnari. This mod adds a new standalone weapon into the game that can be obtained through console commands, or you can also buy it from Cleo in Good Neighbor after you reach level 38. As you may have guessed, it comes with custom textures and model. Both of those looked amazing. Textures are HD and I think they look better than the vanilla textures that you can see on weapons. And model looked very good as well. I especially like the handle and the magazine of the weapon. Now of course it can be also modded and it comes with tons of different mods that of course change the visual of the weapon along with its statistics. When it comes to combat, it was also very powerful, even though that may have been caused by the fact that I have Rifleman perk at max level, so the weapon was basically dealing twice as much as damage. Another thing I also liked about this weapon is that it also has its own lore that is written in the description of the mod page, so make sure you check that one out as well. Overall, a very good looking standalone weapon mod, and if you're a fan of weapons and you want to try out some new ones, then this weapon is definitely for you. And yeah guys, I guess that's about it. This week I didn't want to include many mods since I wanted to release this episode as soon as possible, since the next episode will be probably coming out at Sunday or on Monday, since after that I won't be able to record videos for a while. But I will talk more about that in the upcoming episode. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, tell me what you think about it in the comments, subscribe for more Fallout 4 content, and I will see you next time.